Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're from. We have attendees coming from the West Coast, some from the East Coast, and for the Central Time, you're probably enjoying lunch and joining us while you eat. My name is Mike Summer, and I'm with Managed Methods. I'm part of the sales and customer success team here at Managed Methods, and I'm coming to you from a rainy, dreary state of Georgia. Today's webinar is a continuation of our cybersecurity and safety leadership series. Today's topic is cybersecurity and safety incident response, best practices. We appreciate everybody joining us. I know this time of year, you're either finishing up E-rate or right in the middle of it. And certainly want to thank our three panelists for joining us and donating their time and experience to this topic. We are just going live right now, so we're going to take a little bit of a momentary break and let people get logged in. Again, my name is Mike Summer with Managed Methods, and we're hosting this event. All right, well, why don't we get started? I am going to get the slideshow going and share my screen. And I hope everybody can see that. Can you see that, panelists?
Yep.
Perfect. Again, today's topic is best practices for incident response. And I need to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you've attended one of our webinars, you kind of know the drill. Yes, we are recording this webinar today. And if you signed up and you're attending today, you'll get a link to the webinar. Usually takes about 24 hours, maybe being Thursday afternoon, it might go into Monday, but you'll have a link to that. We certainly encourage all questions. All the attendees are muted, so the questions will need to be put in the chat, but we definitely encourage participation. Feel free to fire those. We have people monitoring that, and we'll be answering those as we go along, and then we'll have a little bit of time toward the end for a little bit of Q&A. The agenda is pretty straightforward, cloud audit, incident report, how can that help us? The panel discussion, definitely appreciate the time and effort that these guys put in with the webinar and helping us spread the cybersecurity message. I'm going to introduce them in a little bit and let them tell a little bit about what they do, where they're from, and then we'll have a little bit of Q&A at the end, as mentioned before. My name is Michael Summer again, Managed Methods. I spent 2 decades in education, finished in 2021. I was a tech director. So I definitely know the struggles that everybody has in school districts, whether it's a funding or, really trying to hit a moving target daily. How can cloud audit help your incident response plan? Well, we're going to go and I'm going to stop sharing that. And at this point, I'm going to break and let the panelists take a moment to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Kirstin. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Kirstin. I'm Kirstin Collins. I work in the Cedarburg School District as the Director of Technology, and I've been in this role for about 12 years. We're a smaller, mid-sized school district, public school district. We have 3,000 students, 5 schools, and just happy to be here. We've been a Managed Methods customer for quite some time.
Thank you, Kirstin. I always like to try to throw that R in there and go Kirstin, apologies. All right, next I'm going to go to Salvador, who is joining us from out in the Mountain Time Zone. Salvador?
Hi, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. I work at Buckeye Elementary School District. I'm the Executive Director of IT. I've been in this role for a year, but I've been in IT for more than 15 years. So I started from the bottom, field technician, and I moved up as director. At our school, we're a mid-sized school. We have 6,000 students. Like I said, I've been here for a year. I was previously a network admin, and I'm happy to be here as well, ManagedMethods. And we've been a customer for ManagedMethods for a couple of years, and I haven't used it, but here at Buckeye I have, and it's a great tool. Thank you.
Thanks, Salvador. And James, finally.
I'm James Hatz. I'm from Rush Cities Public Schools in Minnesota. We're a K-12 district, about 900 students. I've been in my role here for 14 years. Prior to that, I was 10 years at a .com as a network administrator. So I've got 24 years now experience in this. And I've been using ManagedMethods for, I believe, 3 years now.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate the introductions. And, you know, why don't we just kind of dive in and get going? You know, a cybersecurity or safety incident response plan is critical. I know that all districts, or you should have a disaster recovery. What are you going to do in a disaster? Well, what are we going to do if there's ransomware, compromised account, there's a student safety issue? You know, especially since the pandemic, where everything has gone really cloud-based, and that cybersecurity is even more valuable. So I'll just kind of throw this question out to the panel. Does your district have an incident response plan? And if so, you know, is it a living, breathing document, or are you ever adding to it? So I'll start with you, James.
Yeah, we've got one. It's a living, breathing document. We try to review it at least yearly. I'm the only IT person here in the district, so I pulled in, you know, let me start by saying that, you know, this security stuff isn't just on us IT, it's everybody's got to be involved. If you don't have your superintendent and business managers, payroll, those types of people involved, you need to. So I've got a group that we work together. We've put these plans together, you know, the incident response, like we got call lists, we've got data classification, asset classifications. So we've been doing this for like 5 years now. So we're pretty mature now in doing it. Now it's just working on other procedures and then updating what we currently have as things change.
Okay, thank you, James. Salvador?
Yes, we do have an incident response. I have documents of, I mean, as being a first year here at the school district, previously they didn't expand on our incident response, but I did go into more in depth, and I did a cybersecurity response where usually, I mean, everybody has to be involved. If somebody sees something or something suspicious within the network, usually they'll follow protocol and they'll let IT know right away or shut down the computer. But when it comes to the cloud, I mean, if they notice somebody else is logged into another account, or, you know, early detection, there's specific steps that we have for the user notifying IT. We usually try to shut down the computers, the servers, depending on what's been affected, or disable the account. And then usually we will step in and we'll see where it's coming from, you know, try to reset the password, or try to see if we could add MFA, especially if it's an account that's outside. Usually we have steps. Usually if it's on site, the computer, we'll shut it down, we'll take a look at it. Towards the end, if we can't determine as much and we don't know if the incident occurred, I mean, within the server, and if they took, you know, any data or anything, we'll contact our cybersecurity insurance, escalate it towards cybersecurity forensics. So move actually laterally as we escalate it. I mean, if it's inside like a computer or an account, it's been compromised, and we'll try to figure out if any data was taken. But if it comes to a point where it's the whole school network and there's servers that been compromised, I mean, we would have to actually get a cybersecurity forensics team and try to investigate what occurred within the systems.
Okay, thank you, Salvador. And Kirstin?
Sure. So we have a cybersecurity plan that we've put together over the years. You know, probably 5 years ago, it lived with our network admin, and it's not a real good place to have it just with one person. And so over the last, I'd say 3 years, we've really made this a collaborative document and process among our team. So we use a template. I think it's a combination of templates, one from CISA and then K-12-6, and kind of put together what our document looks like. And we then meet weekly. We have a little calendar invite for my team. We have 7 of us in my department, and we sit around the table and we run tabletops, and we might discuss an incident that happened and debrief something if something is kind of fresh in our minds. What would we do differently? How do we stop that from happening? Things like that. But we also use K-12-6 had some tabletops. We'll run through those and say, what if this happened? What if this happened? And we refine that document. It's a living document, and especially because, you know, some of the people who are noted in the document that might have a role in our response plan or enacting the response. For example, like communication. Who's doing the communication? Where does that come from and who does it? Some of those positions turn over, and we want to make sure we have it up to date. And then there's sometimes we do have a few responses written, like if something happened, a communication response, and oh, hey, we should write this because we had to write this in this situation that just happened. We're going to add that to our documentation. And so it's a living document, and highly suggest you get many people on your team involved, not just the IT team. You know, I think like James had said, but, you know, especially in your district office and principals. So we've introduced it to our principals. They know what's happening. We know when we would call school, like what do we need to run school? When do we get kids home? Kids are safest if they're already here, they're safest here. Okay, then when do we decide? So we run through all those types of things.
That's wonderful, and I appreciate you sharing that information. Yes, early detection, but having a group of people and more people know about that plan that's in place for your district. You know, because we all like to take vacations. We're all sick, and you know the old adage, the show goes on. You're going to be involved, but they can't wait for a director or a coordinator to get there to get the ball going. I think that's very important. You know, some great points in there, Sal. You mentioned early detection. You know, when you say early detection, I think about, you know, the data breaches article where they interviewed the hacker group Singularity MD. They, you know, these ransomware, they got into school districts by student account. But I think early detection, if you had some audit in place where you're constantly auditing your network, probably or may have been able to see that we're dealing with a compromised account that's attempted to log in from overseas or just different locations. So yes, early detection, critical. Can you share a time in your experience or your district where early detection, and when I say it, it could be cybersecurity, it could be the cyber safety when we're dealing with student safety. You know, Kirstin, you just left off, so I'll start back with you.
Sure. We just had in December a student account that was logged in from the Netherlands, and ManagedMethods, you know, threw us that information. It was like, what is going on? Obviously, this student is sitting in class right there because they are in attendance today, and that's not happening. So, you know, getting in there and figuring out right away what was going on. Well, it wasn't actually anything nefarious from an outsider, but it was a student in our district who had a proxy that went through and doing stuff at home versus at school and things like that, which also presents risk for us. And having a conversation with that student and the teacher of the class, a computer science class, a very tech savvy student, we love to encourage that, but also gives us that opportunity to, you know, to educate our student and our staff. So we've had a few like that along the way. They get fewer and farther between. We also always get the responses when over Thanksgiving, a login from India on a teacher. And it's like, oh, actually, the teacher did travel to India at Thanksgiving. No problem. But verifying some of those things, you know, in the moment takes time, but it's the right thing to do.
Perfect, perfect. I do want, we've had some questions kind of come up. You mentioned your incident response plan, where you keep them. You know, where do you host it? I mean, is it printed out? Is it in the cloud? Is it shared with documents that, hey, in the event that, because, if you're shut down and can't get to the cloud, I assume it's like our backup. So before I jump to James and Salvador on a time, I wanted to kind of jump onto that question real quick because you had mentioned that plan.
Yep. So we have the plan. We have a shared drive in our Google Drive that we have access to. And then a couple people in our district office actually have access in the event that some reason some of us couldn't get to. But we're going to assume that we don't have access to that drive. So we have a copy that if it has significant updates, we'll reprint the whole thing. But otherwise, we have a copy that we've printed and it's in our safe in our office, and our district office people know that too.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that and giving that. James, how about you? Has there been a time when early detection was really the key?
Yes, a couple times. We've had similar incidences that Kirstin had with student accounts getting logged in from outside of the US. One of them was from, I believe, China or Taiwan, and they used the account to make an Adobe account all before I caught it. Now with ManagedMethods, I'm able to automatically disable those when this happens. And Adobe wasn't too concerned about this happening, so I had to really fight to get them to remove that account because I didn't want it tied to the students at all. And another thing that happens a lot is these Google Doc share emails. They use them now for phishing, and they try to impersonate like the superintendent, and they use words like, here's your pay raise information, or here's the pay schedule, trick people into getting into there and giving out more information. So early detection on that and being able to clean those messages out of mailboxes is important.
Salvador?
I would have to say, like Kirstin said, some of the students, I mean, were off sea, I mean, like in Spain or in Iceland. They were in different locations, and I had to contact the principal and verify during the school year. And yeah, they were actually in those locations. And even with staff, I do get email notifications often telling me suspicious logins, and especially on the audit side as well, just going through it and seeing where users are logging in from. I usually find out like, okay, that's like, for instance, when the user logs in on the phone, it usually tells you that they're logged in at a different location. But then the user gets that notification as well as myself. And I ask myself, okay, I look up the IP address and it looks like it's coming from a Verizon tower or Verizon company. And I'm like, did you guys log in? Did you log in through a phone? And they said yes. And I was like, okay, so you're not actually logging in from that location. It looks like it's from Verizon. So when it comes to that, I'm able to verify. And it's early detection just to be on the safe side, if some account is compromised. I mean, we have a heads up, and we could say, okay, let's disable this account immediately. And it helps a lot. I mean, ManagedMethods has helped me a lot, and especially the users, they ask questions and they're like, hey, wait a second, I didn't log in from, I'm over here at Phoenix area or Buckeye area in Arizona, and it's logging me in Virginia. Why is it doing that? And it helps a lot just to look up the IP address where it's coming from. Usually it's IPv6, and you can look it up online and you can see from what location, what data center, and what's the name. It usually says T-Mobile, Verizon, and you'll find out right away if you ask questions to the user.
And that's why I think these cloud audits, are very important, because James mentioned what they're sharing. If they're sharing sensitive information out there, or something's being shared into your district, the logins you mentioned bouncing around. When you do an audit and you're auditing some login activity, you can definitely tell when an account has been compromised, because it's generally bouncing all around within a short period of time, and there's We do have a couple of questions that have come in, and one of our attendees wanted to know how granular that that IRP is, and the reason they ask is some of the states and their cybersecurity insurance is kind of requiring them to get really granular. If it's who handles the hardware appliances, who handles the software, how granular is it, or is it just handled by your tech department?
It's actually handled by my technology department. So I have network admin, I have IT coordinator, I have technicians, and usually they have different tasks to do. And usually between the incident response, I mean, it applies to everybody within the team. If there's some kind of suspicious or anything's unusual, even like the end user, they know what to do. I usually push out bulletins to the end users, and we have staff and faculty cybersecurity scenarios. And, I push out, okay, if you see something suspicious on your computer and something's popping up, just go ahead and hold the power button, or just try to shut it down as fast as possible. And one of my technicians will go out and, we move down sort of like step by step, like we make sure that we could isolate that issue. And if we find out that it's just a malware or a pop-up spyware, like just a scareware, just to scare the user, saying sometimes you get Google notifications that they install like specific extensions or notifications, and it's scareware. It'll come up and the user's like, oh, I infected my computer, let me shut it down. And they know what to do based on the different articles that I have. I mean, but the incident response is like I said, step by step. If it comes to the point where, for instance, if we get all our servers with ransomware and the computers are not, and we get to that point, then we'll go to the cybersecurity insurance and we'll ask for help. And then from there, they'll send in cybersecurity forensics team. But before that, we have steps where we try to shut down all the servers. But depending on what advice they give us, they might tell us, leave all the servers on. We'll come in and we'll take a look at it quickly. Just depending on the situation, the cyber security incident response might be different.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that information. I'm going to share my screen and kind of do this slide right here. And, really because there was a question from one of our attendees, talking about, hey, we're going to start a phishing campaign soon and want to know, if any of you have implemented. And before I actually posed the question, at ManagedMethods, we're a big proponent of multi-layered tools in place, whether it's that penetration test on your network, where ManagedMethods sits is we sit at the cloud level with the email, the shared drives, whether it's OneDrive or Drive files, anything like that. Identity have, you're trying to train and teach users not to click on links that aren't done. So the phishing campaign, I guess I'm trying to really shorten that up to find out what tools do you guys use that may help with cybersecurity or early detection, because there's no unicorn out there, one software program fixes. And so it's a multitude of tools that help you.
Yeah, so we use a company called InfoSec IQ for our security awareness training and phishing simulations. And I have to say that since we've started that, it's really eye-opening. I believe this is the start of year 3, maybe 2. I think it's 3. And it's really actually terrifying how many people are, clicking on the links, getting phished, and then the next level of providing information to, entering information in. And so that's been a big deal. If they do that, they get some extra training, and then we're actually tracking that information and supplying it to all of our building administrators just so they understand, like, this is a big deal. Here's what's going on in your building. We got to make sure we're being vigilant and training our people. And that was really the last piece of our puzzle that we didn't have done, is our user training and then that fish sim. So we love the resource, and I can't say our users necessarily love the resource. Great video training is awesome, but one of those things where it can get you in a gotcha.
Got it. James?
I'm using the same platform. When we started, we did like a trial with it just to see what our failure rate was, and it was like 60%, which was really eye-opening. So that made the justification for buying something to do training important. Now we're like maybe like at 8%. You know, we have a lot of staff turnover and stuff, so you're always going to have failures. We never use it as a anything that's going to be detrimental to them. It's not used to punish anybody. Like when we first started using it, I had little contests, you know, for people that reported phishing or completed trainings. You know, we do like a drawing or something to kind of get them engaged with it. You know, you just never want to use it as something that's going to be used to punish anybody. So you may have to talk with somebody if they fail every phishing test, but other than that, you know, we try to make it fun and informative, not.
Well, and I always talk about the phishing campaigns and stuff to help your users with this early detection. You know, I used to tell my users, look, we're certainly trying to protect your school issued account, but these are tools that can transition past to your personal account, your personal banking, all of that stuff. Cybersecurity is not just dedicated to the K-12 market, you know, but it is one of the top 5 markets that you know, bad actors are targeting. So yeah, I definitely get that. You know, you guys, all 3 of y'all are customers of ManagedMethods. And, you know, if you could talk about when you did, you know, you all started with us, you started with a cloud security audit risk and assessment. And, you know, one, how eye-opening was it? And how frequent are these audits that you're really running through and diving through to now that you're customers to make sure that, you know, I know you have remediation and stuff in place to do it, but really, I guess just start with how important that audit was. So Sal, I'll start with you.
Well, when I do the audits, we have Google Work Suite. So it's actually connected to Google. It's also connected to Microsoft. So based on that, usually when I go through the list, I look at users that have apps. Usually on the app side, it'll give us a notification that says critical. Usually if they have applications or students have applications that are connected to their accounts, if they're critical, it'll notify. It says right away right there that they're critical, and it gives me the option to remove it or remove it right away from the user. I think it's called invoke. So remove that access from that user and just look at it and, you know, try to prevent that app from ever going into, the users to be able to do that either from the Google Work Suite. Usually if I go through the audits on Microsoft side, I mean, you look at OneDrive and you see what is this user actually sharing files to? Is it public? Especially files, I mean, you have to look at it in Google Drive as well, see who are they sharing it with? Is it public, like a link that is public, or is it being shared to the whole world? Those are specific things I look at as well. Red flags on that, I mean, especially because if it's a confidential PII information and it's public, then everybody has access to it, and they could, you know, I'll just follow up with the user and say, hey, I think you on the Google Drive, you have this set as public and it's going out in the world and anybody could access it.
Kirstin, do you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
So talking about the API access, you're talking?
Well, when you did your cloud security audit,
Got it.
you know,
Yep.
did it really help? I mean, you saw where you needed to implement a plan, how it helped you implement based on what you
Correct.
discovered.
So we went through, and probably maybe 7 years ago or so, a whole security audit. What does that look like? Well, it's not just on-premise, that's part of it. And so then we looked at the cloud, but we didn't have a tool at the time to really get that insight into our cloud environment. And so we brought that audit in, and then being able to, we actually presented our security audit to our school board of education and said, here's where we're at. And this is a blind spot for us. And we need to have eyes on this at all times. So, we need to, we need the money to provide this service. In the same way with our on-premise pieces, you can go to all your vendor partners, they will do audits for you. And that's a great place to start. And then decide, what do you need to do? Where are you at? What's your high targets, that you need to prioritize, and ask for the money. I could sit here and say, I didn't have money to purchase ManagedMethods, but I could have said, I don't have money, I can't buy this. But I brought it to my board and they're like, yeah, and then you need to, we got you. And then how often are you going to do these audits? How does this happen? They got very excited that we were really engaging in with them to show them that. And so, having the money to support and keeping them educated in terms of supporting the work that you're doing. Our board really appreciates it. And when I ask for something, they listen.
Very good. Very good. It's always, yes, to have a very supportive board, because the landscape has changed over the last few years. I mean, more cloud-based, but there's IEPs that could be shared out, be emailed out, FERPA violations. The pandemic brought out a lot of HIPAA violations where people were sharing documents that, the number of positive COVID tests in your district, those can really hurt a district. And if you're aware of that and have the ability to do that stuff, you mentioned, your vendors, there's great vendors out there, that do penetration tests that, looking at the nuts and bolts of your network, your wireless, your firewall settings, the settings all down to the hardware, but also taking it a little bit further and actually, what are my users emailing? What are they sharing? How are they sharing it? And who are they sharing it to? And, very critical, very critical. Are there other tools outside? I know you use ManagedMethods, but what are some other tools out there that we've talked about phishing, we've talked about management. What are some other tools that are there video trainings, anything like that? Just, and I'll open it up and anyone from the panel can jump in and answer.
I use for other items, like first to do audits, we use S2org, and it's more of an independent audit, and it looks at not only the cybersecurity, but the physical security, your policies and procedures, your business practices, all that. And it gives you like a credit score. So you can score anywhere from 300, which is bad, to 850, which is impossible, unless you have billions of dollars. And that we've been working on that for like 5 years now, and we always want to improve, so that's what we work with as a team. And then with ManagedMethods, as far as the auditing and stuff, they very good at offering, like quarterly doing audits. So we do take advantage of that. Other things we use, Cloudflare has a federal grant where schools our size, like I think it's 2,000 or less, can get email protection for free. So we took advantage of that. We got our firewall is our next generation firewall. Just all kinds of different layers. And then CrowdStrike is our EDR. That's another layer. And we had in Minnesota, there's a program where they pay for part of that cost too. So I'm kind of fortunate to get some funding now, either free items or partially paid for to help us protect stuff.
Good deal. Thank you, James. Kirstin, any other tools outside of that you use? I mean, you've mentioned a lot of training. I want to kind of jump on, I guess, the plan back onto our incident response plan, we know that a cybersecurity incident may come up. You know, it's a compromised account. But can you talk about the difference, how you're dealing from that type of incident to maybe a student safety? You know, how does it tailor off? Because I would assume eventually that would get out of the tech's hand and maybe into that counselor or the school for really to make sure that that child is taken care of. How is that kind of handled through your response?
So we have a couple conduits where we get information about student safety. We have a tip line. We have, you know, the pieces that ManagedMethods give us. We have another provider. And so any of those, we have developed a process that the receiving members of the notification emails out to, depending on the severity, but forwards emails, and then makes a phone call to the building administrator, who then actually responds to the team. I got it, we're on it, and then follows up if they need any resources. Many times things are a bit innocuous. As you know, students can write things that they don't mean, or be in an emotional state or whatever. But I would say every year we are intervening in dangerous situations, student safety situations. And again, it's one of those things I get questioned when we go through our board budget presentations. What's this? What's this? And you never want to be saying in hindsight, oh yeah, we didn't purchase that service anymore. We should have had, you know. And so it's things like that where these tools will always have, I think. I know money's getting tight, but it's not a decision we're going to make to get rid of those tools.
Thank you. Thank you. Sal, do you want to piggyback on that and maybe add a little bit to that?
At our school, we have a couple of tools. We have Bark. That's a free version that's connected to the students' accounts. And then that notifies the administrators at the schools. And then we have LineWise. It's our filtering, but the administrators have access to that. So flag words, they keep an eye on that as well. If keywords come up, they could actually get notifications as well. But then when it comes to ManagedMethods, there's specific things that either Bark or LineWise doesn't capture, and ManagedMethods will send, especially to the IT team, it'll send us a notification right away. And then we'll follow up, we'll email the principals, depending on the school day. Like if it's normal school hours operations, we'll try to call them or email them immediately, principals or administrators. And then if it's after hours, usually I check my emails often. So it's most of the time, I mean, if you think about it, 24/7, you can't do that, but I check here and there daily. And one day at Saturday, I could get an email notification, the students online, and they have a file or a keyword, some kind of email or some kind of Word document that says something threatening. I'll email the administrators right away. But I mean, that's on a Saturday, and then they'll follow up with a threat assessment on Monday right away, or just be ready for it. I mean, that's not, I mean, if it's really serious, I mean, when it comes to like where they say that really threatening, I'll call the police, you know, just make sure that, you know, everybody's safe. I mean, if it's really to that point, escalated to that point. But I mean, we have those tools and it helps a lot. I mean, if you have several tools in place, but even with LineWise, that's our web filtering, but it has keywords. And then we have Bark, which is a free version, but ManagedMethods, I mean, it helps, especially the IT team, to keep an eye on users if specific keywords, emails, or policy violations.
Thank you, Sal. Thank you, Sal. Yeah, you know, I always encourage all district, you know, hey, talk to your neighbors, your neighboring districts, you know, build that network out there. Your state Department of Eds. I mean, there's a cybersecurity response team. You know, we all have different rules and regulations, and know those. But I want to put this out to the panel. Are there resources, communities or guides that you guys kind of have leaned on or rely on to help you write that incident?
So I may have mentioned earlier, but K-12 6 organization, they have a like a cybersecurity framework and all kinds of new tools even this year. There's a self-assessment tool that they put together. They have an incident response run book. And so those are some of the pieces that we've used to create our plan. Then they have a new document this year that's like what leaders need to know. So I brought that to my leadership team. And then the other piece is CISA, and they're the top organization that you're going to work with, and they have a toolkit, cybersecurity threat toolkit, and like what are the recommendations and all kinds of resources then that you can use to create your plan, or just kind of use as supplements to what you're doing. And we do some of it in like, okay, our plan looks like this, let's check it. Where are we at? They also have recommendations on to harden your systems and different things. So tons and tons of resources with just those two. They organize, I was going to say events that they put on too. Highly recommend, whether it's a webinar or attending that K-12 6 conference. It's sold out, super sad. Didn't get in there, but it's good stuff.
Thank you very much. James?
Well, as far as, the alerts and stuff, we're using Securely for web filtering, and they're based on the alerts, and I have it set up so it sends it to our principals and counselors, depending on the building. And then the stuff from ManagedMethods, comes to me, and then if something's on that, then I'll forward it on to them. As far as help with that, we've kind of been on our own, so.
No, totally get that. I mean, that's a lot of times you can feel like you're by yourself, but your neighbors, your other tech coordinators, tech directors, when you go to, like I know in the state of Georgia, there's GAMUS, there's different conferences that you're around other tech leaders, hey, put it on a listserv, ask a question, anything out there, because I can promise you somewhere, someplace in your state or has been there and done it and is more than happy to help you implement and get a plan going. And again, I reiterate that it's not a one size, a one unicorn software. There's many different layers that we discussed. The common denominator across all is early detection, being able to detect what's shared, the compromised account, what's coming into your district, being able to actually stop a spoofing email that's coming in acting like your chief financial officer. There's so many things out there, and that's why I always kind of talk about it's like hitting a moving target. You're sitting here trying to outthink, and we know that everybody's got good firewalls, good content filters, good, there's so many things out there. But do you truly know what's going on in the cloud, what they're sharing, what they're emailing that could potentially, either make you liable if you're sharing IEP information that gets in the wrong hands? There's so many things. So yes, a plan is definitely could be an ebb and flow depending on the situation that you alluded to. I do want to, ask, just from your experiences with this, we talked about the audit, we talked about that. How much is it changing in the landscape now? I mean, you've set up a plan. How many times have you had to go back and really adjust and go, you know what, we need to do this because it's a better way to do it, In other words, you don't want to get stuck in that rut, and this is the way we do it.
You actually have to have some sort of plan. I mean, like review, like either quarterly, yearly. I mean, you're going to run into situations and you're going to ask yourself, hold off. We told the end user, like when they've witnessed something suspicious on their computer to, shut down their computer and contact IT right away. And then there's been situations where they email the technician rather than call them or try to call the IT department, and nobody knows throughout the day, you know, about it until the next day. There's specific situations that we have to modify and say, hold on, let's not email, let's try to call them, or try to send a contact administrator to text, you know, the director, or let us know. There's always incidents that occur, and you're like thinking about it and you're saying, okay, that this occurred here, and my plan kind of doesn't explain this portion, what we did here. And especially if you're out on vacation or you're out and there's somebody else in charge and they have all these documents, but I mean, if they witness a specific situation and you're not there to be able to handle it, and they see, okay, I'm following the steps, but what do I do here? I mean, those situations are going to change the incident response, the backup, disaster recovery, malware removal process, you know, how you respond to malware as well, or to a different cybersecurity incident. There's always going to be change because of the situation you're in. But if you have some kind of standard way of looking at it step by step, then they could follow along. But I mean, it's not, they're going to get confused at one point, or the user that's here, and they're going to say, I don't know what to do here. So you always have to have some kind of backup plan and say, okay, in this situation, go down the steps. Oh, the last step is to contact your cybersecurity insurance, or contact the IT director directly with a text message, or try to call them if they're not here. So there's always change as you witness a new incident or situation. So it's ongoing. So yearly or quarterly, it's best, you know, to review and change.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, one of the questions just came in, you know, do you have a list or steps, part of your incident response plan, a list or steps of whom to reach out to, you know, depending on like certain staff, or if it's a situation for staff, sometimes student, and do they know exactly what they need to do? So do y'all have that kind of in your plan that's communicated out?
We do. So basically the first thing that we're supposed to do is contact our insurance. Like, we don't do anything other than pull the network cord. We're not even shutting down computers. We might go to the MDF and pull the you know, the fiber and be like, nope, nobody's coming in here. But we simultaneously, we have the permission from our insurance company to contact our Wisconsin cyber response team at the same time. So someone's contacting insurance, and we're moving forward already with the cyber response team. And in reality, we will probably be doing not a lot, our team themselves, but our cyber incident response plan is actually a series of questions to make sure we've covered all the bases. You know, like Sal says, you know, there's not a script for every piece. And so it's really more of a framework of how to operate and to make sure you're looking at everything in a lens in which, like, you're not leaving a stone unturned. You're not forgetting to do this. You're not forgetting something. We also have kind of on retainer some of our closest vendors who have helped us implement some of the infrastructure pieces that we have here. We have them listed in our plan. We have specific people, if it's after hours, how would we contact you? What would that look like? And make sure that we know how to do that. I think that moved the confidence of anyone on our IT team forward so much, to know that they're not going to freeze in the moment. Really, there's two things you need to do, maybe three. Let me know, and I let my big boss know. And at the same time, we are moving forward with insurance and the cyber response team. The one other piece I would say is, this is our next step, is we learned this from our friends in Neenah who had a ransomware attack. And they said, having people in your buildings that are your tech friendly partners, your tech friends in the building. So if you need to, you can reach out. Something happens during the day. Hey, I need you to do this now. Go pull the network cables from everybody's computers. Just do it. Just go, everybody do this, you know, and just having those people that can help you in a situation in your offsite locations.
Perfect, perfect. I definitely want to make sure I get this. I mean, you mentioned, Kirstin, a great point. Your cybersecurity insurance, who you go through, you got permission because when you have that insurance, they're wanting you to follow this protocol, and you went and got. So it's important to reach out to your insurance provider, make sure that you're following exactly the plan that they do, and you got permission. So I would certainly encourage anybody in the audience to do the same. Before we kind of open it up to kind of a Q&A here at the thing, I really wanted to kind of dive in and just, I want each of you to share what advice that, the three panelists here have to give to the audience on, if they're looking to start a plan, implement a response plan. What advice do you have?
I would.
Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
That's right. I would use, I don't know if many attendees are already members of MS ISAC. It's part of the Center for Internet Security. They have a lot of good information out there to help, with creating the plans and stuff. If you can afford to, enroll in like an S2org type thing, they also have, templates and stuff that will help you. It's hard to get started, but once you do, you just got to start somewhere, and you got to start small. You're not going to get it all done in a day, a week, a year. It's going to be a constant thing. It's going to be something you're going to have to do year after year. You're always going to update things. So that's my advice there, I guess.
Thanks, James. Sal?
Well, if you're starting off, I mean, from scratch, and you're getting ready to do an incident response, I would go out and about your neighbors, your other school districts, ask for templates. Go to the universities or colleges, try to partner up with them and ask, if they could. Sometimes they have classes that are for incident response, and then they'll do like a survey, and they'll help out with creating incident response. You could also look online. There's different tools from NIST, and your cybersecurity insurance should be able to assist you with templates as well. Like, for example, here at Buckeye Elementary, we use the Trust, and they provided us cyber incident response templates, and we fill it out, and then we could actually use that as a cybersecurity incident response template. There's a lot of tools out there, and like I said, your neighbors are essential. I mean, maybe another school district that's a large school district, they might have already done a template that might fit your mid-sized school. A larger school district might have better, or a university or a college, or like I said, online, looking up different cybersecurity practices for incident response.
Thank you, Sal. Kirstin?
Like I said, find those resources. There's so many partners out there. The big ones I mentioned, K-12, 6, and CISA. Yeah, that's probably it. I would, just make sure you have your, in terms of prevention, you just have all your bases covered. Like, just think in a manner of that, okay, my on-premise, my cloud, and then your vendors or those providers that you have that actually act as you're getting a service from them, and you're sending their student data out there. Make sure you're looking at them and getting those data privacy agreements in place. In our data privacy agreement, we ask about their security frameworks they use. And so we actually have them document that. It's important to us. We're holding down the fort over here. And if we just let those providers just like, oh, you do whatever, you just gotta have your due diligence there. And then that last piece, that's always the hardest, is your people. That's the issue. It's the uncontrollable variable, the people, and how are you handling that? But lots and lots of resources, and just reach out to districts that are doing the same thing. Our collaboration among districts and things like this is so important.
Absolutely. Definitely. I think one of the questions was, I assume they're talking about MSISAC. Is it a paid membership? No, it's, there's so many free ones out there. That's a free one. K-12, 6, great resource. I mean, there's so many free ones out there that there's no need to pay for something. I mean, you're going to get a plethora of information out there at no cost. So anyway, I did want to open it up. We saved a little bit of time for some questions, some, a little bit of Q&A. I'm going to share this screen here, and, please put them in the chat. You're all muted. So, I didn't start my slideshow, did I? Hold on just a second. Technical difficulties. All right, now we're going. So, please put them in the chat down there. Would love to, answer some questions, what's going on. And, we've got a few minutes left. Did any of you conduct any cybersecurity session with your staff? Have y'all had any professional development with staff?
I actually got time on our first all staff gathering this past year. We do a safety summit, and that usually means physical security, safety. We also do medical kind of things too. And I was able to get some time just to speak to everyone and explain how important the trainings that we're doing from InfoSec IQ, to tell them, this is what, if you were looking at ransomware, this is what it might look like, and here's what I want you to do, and here's why, and we're a huge target, and here's the things to be careful, and just kind of lighting a little fire. And I got a great response, so I'm appreciative of it. My boss is saying we do it every year. He's super supportive. Gotta love that, former IT director. So we're sitting good in that way.
Awesome. We've talked about K-12 6, talked about MSISAC. Are there any other national or big free ones out there that anybody should look at?
Well, there's the NIST, NIST. If they go online, they can find different best practices. It has a lot of information about, especially framework. I would recommend NIST. There's also an ISO, but you would have to look at it more on a specific area if you're looking at security. But I think ISO, I don't think so it's free, but you can look it up and know more information about it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we're closing in on the end of our webinar, but I did want to take a moment, and I appreciate every attendee out there who's attended. And this is important. This is why we developed and started this series of webinars, to really help educate and help school districts across the country. For us, we believe it starts with an audit. You have to know what's going on in your district, and you have to have that starting point. ManagedMethods does offer a free audit risk and assessment. It always starts out as it's a look but don't touch. There's no remediation. It's just reporting. You'll be able to see those third-party apps. You'll be able to see accounts. You'll be able to see. And that's how James, Kirstin, and Sal all started with ManagedMethods, and that's how every single person that does our trial does. And there's no obligation at the end of the 30 days. If you look at it and go, hey, it's not for us, we're going to part as friends. It's all about spreading the cybersecurity gospel out there and helping K-12 districts secure their data. So Sal, James, Kirstin, thank you so much for your time today, donating that. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there.